Hello students, welcome to Lab 6. We're going to be talking about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Really quick, let's talk about what I'd like you to go over in your lab assignment. So, I know that we don't have slides for, you to look at in the microscope or anything, but I know that you can draw from the internet. So most of the prepared slides, what I'd like you to do is just draw from the internet, like just draw in what you see from the internet in the prepared slides. Okay. Wet mounts, you can skip those. All right. But any questions that you might see, like you can skip what the difference is between living and prepared. Those you can skip, but any other questions I'd like you to answer. Okay, so what type of classification are Anabana, prokaryotic, eukaryotic? You should be able to answer those. Okay, so answer those questions and draw out anything else, okay? And then you can take a picture and then put it into the assignment list. Make sure to do the pre and post-lab questions, and then that should be it for the assignments. All right, lab 6. So cells can be divided into two major categories based on their domains, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So prokaryotic cells don't have internal membranes, but they have DNA within a nucleoid region, right? So they'll have the DNA within an area, right? But it's not within a membrane-bound organelle. Eukaryotes, though, they have membrane-bound organelles and they have a membrane-bound nucleus. So also eukaryotes can be multicellular. They have the ability to bind themselves together into multicellular organisms. So anything you see has a typical prokaryotic cell. They can also have flagellum or cilia. They can also have pili. These are special organs that can transfer genetic protein or genetic information. Prokaryotic cells also have a circular chromosome rather than a linear one. Eukaryotic cells sometimes have a flagella, depends on what it is. These are unicellular organisms, but not all of them will have that flagella. It's very, very low on the evolutionary scale. So these will be like euglena or paramecium. So eukaryotes will also have very specific organelles that have energy producing properties. So mitochondria, chloroplasts. So cell organelles and their functions, these are things that you should be able to recognize. Plasma membrane, this is a bilayer of phospholipids that surrounds the cell, regulates the passage in and out of the cell. The nucleus contains the DNA and proteins, controls the activity of the growth of the cell. The nucleoid region, the region of prokaryotes that contains the genetic material. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. This is a area of membranes that functions in the synthesis of lipids. It is also an area of detoxification of harmful metabolic processes. So it doesn't have attached ribosomes in it. A lot of smooth endoplasmic reticulum is within the liver cells. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is different. It has those ribosomes attached to it. It produces proteins based on those ribosomes. And ribosomes consist of RNA. They bind other RNA molecules together to make polypeptides. It makes proteins from amino acids. The Golgi apparatus, they modify proteins together, they process them, and they ship them off in vesicles. There's these little packages of phospholipids to send them off either inside the cell or outside the cell through exocytosis. Mitochondria, this is cell organelle that generates chemical energy through cellular respiration. Lysosomes, these are organelles, vesicles containing degradative enzymes that enclose other molecules together, or other membranes, or other organelles even, to degrade them if they're past their prime or if they're needing degraded. They can enclose dead mitochondria that no longer need being powered, and they can degrade that into smaller molecules so that they can be digested. Centrioles, these are minute cylindrical organelles that develop spindle fibers so that you can be used in cell division. They can split apart DNA molecules, chromosomes, so that they can be split apart easily through mitosis. Cytoplasm, this is just the plasm, the water based within the cell that everything kind of floats in, also called the cytosol. So Anabaena is the first organism that we see in the lab. This is a genus. Anabaena is the genus of bacteria that contains several different species. Anabaena is photosynthetic. It contains chlorophyll within its molecules, or within its cells. That means it gets energy from sunlight, right? If it's photosynthetic, it's autotrophic. Auto meaning self, trophic meaning that it, that's its troph. That's where it gets its energy from. Self-energy, self-energizing. So these are found all over the world, sometimes as a type of algae or a type of plankton. So these are in bacteria. These are in the domain bacteria, right? So these are prokaryotic. They don't have a nucleus. They don't have membrane-bound organelles or anything like that. As opposed to eukaryotic cells that have that membrane-bound organelles, that have all these other things. And eukaryotic cells contain different kingdoms, plants, animals, fungi, and protists, of which we'll be talking about right now. So protists are loosely defined, not really within a certain category, but they're incredibly diverse. They're microorganisms that live in moist habitats because they're single-celled, and if they, go outside of that, they're going to dry up. Some form algae and plankton clusters. Others can, get inside of you and form diseases. So the three that we'll be talking about today are Paramecium, Euglena, and amoeba. So Paramecium is in the domain Eukarya, right? Because it has nucleus. It actually has two nuclei. It has a micronucleus and a macronucleus. It has a contractile vacuole. It has an oral groove where it scrapes food off rocks, off substances. And it has cilia that help it float in water, kind of move along in its watery area. And it is a heterotroph. Hetero meaning different. It gets its energy from a different area. Okay, so it has a food vacuole, it has a contractile vacuole, there's its micronucleus, it has a macronucleus. Right. Then we have Euglena. This is also eukaryote. This one has a flagella. It will use that to whip the water around it so that it can move. It is autotrophic and heterotrophic. So it has a contractile vacuole so that it can use that to store sugars or whatever. But it also has chloroplasts. So it can photosynthesize or whatever it needs to. It also has an eye spot. That eye spot will allow it to move towards light, so that it can get the most light for its needs. And then we have amoeba. So amoebas are, weird, kind of lanky organisms. And amoebas will use a process called phagocytosis. These are heterotrophs, and they will surround whatever food substance it needs to and just overtake whatever it needs to overtake, and then basically engulf it. And it has a food vacuole, contractile vacuole. The contractile vacuole mostly stores sugars and water, and the food vacuole will store other things, mostly sugars. The pseudopod, that means fake foot, will use it to move wherever it needs to go. Then we have Eukarya and Animalia. So these are human epithelial cells. basically just meaning skin cells. And basically all you can see here is the nucleus, the membrane, and the cytoplasm. Not much else you would be able to see because most of the other organelles are clear. You would have to use a different stain in order to see the other organelles. So the cell model, you can see all the different types of organelles in there. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the rough ER, the nuclear membrane, the nucleolus. Then we have the mitochondria, the centrioles, Golgi body, lysosomes, and the plasma membrane. Okay. We have a few other review questions for the first lab practical. Remember, that is coming up. This is lab 6. I believe we have lab 7, and then the lab practical is coming after that. So make sure that you are ready for that. And if you have any questions, please let me know beforehand. Okay? Make sure that you're reviewing over these. Make sure you're reviewing over the lab manual. All right? Once again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.